Good morning, students. I hope you all are fine and taking good care of your health. Now, I begin with the further portion of the chapter, The Best Christmas Present in the World. But before I start, let's have a quick recap on what we completed in the previous session of English. The narrator bought a desk from an antique shop. While repairing, he saw a secret drawer and found a letter. He read the letter. It was written by Jim McPherson to his wife Connie. Jim was soldier of British Army and he was developed to fight against German army. In his letter, Jim had described an evening at the war front. At the war front, instead of fighting, both British as well as the German armies celebrated Christmas Eve together merrily. They were making peace at war. Now let's begin. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feeling as I looked into the eyes of the Fifth officer who approached me, hand outstretched. Hans Wolf, he said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it. I am from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas. So the student, I have noted down some meanings here. Underline the hard words. You also, and write down the meaning. It will help you to understand the story. So do it. Captain Jim McPherson, I replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. Ah, Dorset, he smiled. I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage. And we talked, Connie, how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English, but it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset, never even been to England. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book, Far from the Madding Crowd. So out there in no man's land, we talked about Bathsheba and Gabrielloch and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. He had a wife and one son, both just 6 months ago. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki and grey everywhere, all over no man's land, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, eating. Hans Wolf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. I agreed. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. There never was a Christmas party like it, Connie. So in this paragraph, outstretched means open-armed. Dusseldorf, place in Germany from where Hans Wolf was. Then after hurdles, hurdle means crowd of people. So now in this, Jim McPherson so friended with Fifth officer Hans Wolf. Now they both were discussing so much about the food, the drink, the particular books that both read, their common interest, and they both did not know where the time passed. So now they both introduced theirself to each other. Fritz officer Hans Wolf said that he was from Dusseldorf. Then Captain Jim McPherson replied, Happy Christmas to you too. And he introduced him that he was a school teacher from Dorset. It's a place name. It's in the west of England. Fritz also knew this place, and Fritz Hanswolf could speak flawless English. Now both of them starting to share their views about the books that they both read and about the character, and then they found so many things common in between them, and they feel that they were no enemies. They are seems as good as friends. So the names like Bathsheba, Gabrielok, and Sergeant Troy, they are the names of characters. The story read it by both of them, and now they are talking about the common interest things. Now, then someone I don't know who bought out a football greatcoats were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew, it was Tommy again, Fritz, out in the middle of no man's land. Hans Wolf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. There was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us. He saw it too and smiled. Jim Macpherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we could resolve this war. A football match. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned. No wives become widows. I would prefer, I told him, then we Tommies could be sure of winning, probably. We laughed at that, and together we watched the game. Sad to say, Coney, Fritz won 2-1, but as Hans Wolf generously said, our goal was wider than theirs, so it wasn't quite fair. The time came, and all too soon, when the game was finished. The snaps and the rum and the sausage had long since run out, and we knew it was all over. I wished Hans well and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon, that the fighting would end and we could all go home. So, in this, mingling means mixing up to each other, resolve, that is, solve a matter. Now, in this, someone don't know who but came up with the idea to play football, and everybody agreed to play. Hans Wolf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet, and we both were talk with each other. Hans Wolf told Macpherson, wouldn't it be nice whether this issue or all the fights were resolved I just playing a match instead of fighting a war? And Macpherson also agreed in this, and it was a very deep thought that Hans Wolf had in his mind. And the match got over, and Fritz won the match, but there again Hans Wolf very humble in saying that they could win the match because their goalpost was wider, and it was unfair for Tommies to not win that match. Now the snaps, rum sausage, everything will be over. Now the party will almost over, and it was time for two armies to go back to their places. Both of them, Hans Wolf and Jim McPherson, wished each other well, and they both wished that they were able to see their families. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides, Hans Wolf said. Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly. Unwillingly, I felt he turned to wave just once and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. That night, back in our dugouts, we heard them singing a carol and singing it quite beautifully. It was still nurtured, silent night. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus of while shepherds watched. We exchanged carols for a while and then we all fell silent. We had our time of peace and goodwill, a time I will treasure as long as I live. Dearest Connie, my Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. So here, unwillingly means doesn't want to do. Drifting means moving away. Dugouts, a shelter for soldier made by digging a hole in the ground and covering it, and still nurtured and wild shepherds watched. It's a song name, carols, song name, which was sung by both the armies. Now, in this, now they all went out to their trenches, their original places, but they all not sleep at that night, entire night, the Christmas Eve, they kept singing carols, they exchanged carols with each other, and carols are song which Christian sings in the church, and it's kind of worship to their God Jesus. And Jim in the end part of this letter agree that this was the best way to resolve any country's war by the happiness what he feels here, and it's just a priceless. And in this letter, Jim McPherson promised to Connie that in the next Christmas Eve he will be with her to celebrate the festival. So the student in this page here given long, that long means wait. So student, I hope you will understand up to this. Now further we can continue in the next video. Before I stop this, I want to say just go through with the story how much we completed. Once again, we will meet in the next video. Till then, take care of yourself. Stay at your home. Be safe. Be happy. Thank you. Goodbye.